Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a video and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Today, I'm very privileged to have an accomplished medical doctor, Dr. Priyanka Mathur, with me. Priyanka, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, and namaste. A very happy new year to you, to your audiences, and I would say everyone in the world, wishing that 2021 will be a year healthy and happy and much better than 2020 for everyone.
Terrific. That's such a great wish to start our conversation. So Priyanka is the founder and CEO of MediPocket. She's a frequent speaker on the health circuit. She studied medicine at St. Petersburg State Medical Academy. She speaks Russian, Hindi, Sanskrit, English, and Spanish. She volunteers at the Rural Education Development in India, AIDS Action Committee, and the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. And I forgot to mention, we are speaking to Priyanka, who's sitting right now in California. So Priyanka, tell me, what would you say are three key milestones in your life or your career?
I would say the first is becoming a doctor, because that has been my dream since I think I was 5 years old. And my mom says every time anybody asked me, as you know, when you're young, every other elder is like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And when I was asked that, every time my answer was consistent, I want to be a doctor. I don't know why that time I don't have doctors in my family, but that has been what always I wanted to be. And I was able to achieve that. So that would be my first milestone. And the second one is again in healthcare related to career is when I started MediPocket. Because after being a doctor and working as a clinician, I always wanted to do something in healthcare, but also something different in healthcare. And that's what platform MediPocket gave me.
Wonderful.
And the third, which I'm very proud, is achieving the partnership with 75,000 pharmacies across nations with MediPocket. So that was the third milestone, came closer with the second milestone.
Fabulous. So let's talk about MediPocket. You said it's one of the three milestones in your life. Tell me about this venture.
So MediPocket is healthcare venture, and it's your health in your pocket. So what we're trying to create is bringing the healthcare to you. So it has to be accessible and it has to be on demand, so it can go wherever you go with it. We are living in an era where everything needs to be on demand. You want food to come to you on demand. You want taxi to come to you on demand. Why not healthcare? Which is not just out of leisure or leisure activities, but it's out of need sometimes. If you have a sick child or a sick person at home, you do not have the privilege to just call the doctor in the older times, or check on your lab work, or call a lab work. So with that objective, we started MediPocket. And another thing with MediPocket, I only say it's not about just providing people what they, as I said, the convenience, it's a necessity, which being a doctor, I very well understand why, when you're in the system, you do get lost. The people are lost. They're completely dependent on doctor. I'm not saying don't follow your doctor or don't listen to them, but at the same time, you need to be educated. You need to be involved in your own health. And that's what this platform is providing to the people.
Okay. And, when you talk about, when I was reading about you, you said your mission is for families to take control of their health. Now, I know in the US, there's a constant fight going on at a political level on which is better, Obamacare or Trump's plan, then I'm sure Biden will come up with something different. But what is the meaning of take control of your health?
So I would say, taking the first part of the sentence, which is take control, you can take control of anything when you understand it or when you're involved in it. And that is what with healthcare, I think that is the area which most of the people leave it to their healthcare providers. They don't get involved in it. It's not just to just follow the instructions of the doctor is enough. You need to be involved. You need to know about your own health, your family health. And again, it's not I will blame only on the people that they don't do it or the patient, but also our system. Our system is done in such a complex or a complicated way that people get intimidated in the healthcare system. So when you learn about something, when you're educated about your own health, when you have access to it, that gives you more power to take control of it. You become better advocate of your and your family's health, which in case of United States, I would say one thing is very important, because as you know, you have been a frequent traveler here, the system here is very expensive. So it's very important you to be in control of it financial wise also.
Very interesting. So, when I was reading about you, I was fascinated to see, and my first thought was that looks like the Silicon Valley bug seems to have hit a medical doctor. And, I've never heard a medical doctor talk of artificial intelligence and machine learning. So tell me about what you are doing with AI and ML in your initiatives of My Health Pocket and Dr. AI.
So, you really said a very nice word, that a bug of Silicon Valley hit me, because that is exactly the response when I first started talking. People were questioning, are you a medical doctor?
Correct.
Or you're just a PhD, because you're talking more technical than what a doctor could understand.
Correct.
And what I realized with AI, AI as we know is literally the machine is learning the human intelligence. When I educated myself in AI, it's not just technical. It's not that what only the technical or e-commerce or any self-driving cars can use. The healthcare can use it in much efficient way, and that's what the AI and the machine learning part that we have incorporated. We are giving our software, our app, that intelligence which can mimic a caregiver, or it could be a personal, as I say, personal caregiver or a personal nurse for you.
Okay.
So that is how we are creating this platform using AI and machine learning, which, I would love to talk a little bit more about what components later on it. But
no, let's talk about it now. Let's talk about both My Health Pocket and Dr. AI.
Sure. So the components that we are using incorporating AI and machine learning is in the platform, which is My Health Pocket and Dr. AI. As we were talking in earlier, take control. You can take control when you're involved and you have access to the information of it. So what My Health Pocket is providing, a very simplified platform, which even I would say a high schooler can these days use it, is storing your health information. It is as simple as storing your picture in your photo gallery or files in your documents on a computer. It gives you that simplified platform on surface for patients or users to use to store information, but on the back end, it's a very highly secure and advanced system on the back end. So by you giving that platform, you're giving, again, the power in the hands of patient. So that is what My Health Pocket is doing. And Dr. AI is what, as artificial intelligence, human doctor would do.
Okay.
So Dr. AI is very interesting, and I'm always get very excited talking about it and looking that to come forward. And it would be coming soon in 2021, mid 2021. We are launching it. And Dr. AI, what it does, as a doctor, what happens is when you visit a doctor, you just have 15-20 minutes with your doctor, where the doctor does your physical examination. They ask you about your history and all that, and then they use your lab work and all that. So doctor never based their diagnosis or their treatment plan based on what the patient is telling them, because as a patient or a non-medical person, you only talk about the symptoms based on your understanding of it, which could be sometimes fragmented. It could be sometimes inaccurate at times. We get patients telling about the medication to be small, round, yellow, blue color, and all that. So we have been thrown the puzzles, which as a doctor, you put together different components, and based on that, you give a diagnosis or a treatment plan.
Okay.
Similarly, the Dr. AI is going to mimic that. How in a virtual world it's going to mimic is, it has a platform which has a 2D image of human bodies, and you don't have to tell us what part of the body by saying the medical term, but you can just point, as when you visit a doctor, you point at the area of your symptom.
Correct.
Similarly, on those images, you can point your area of symptom. And then the system is going to ask you questions based on those. There's a series of questions until it comes to the conclusion. And once it comes to the conclusion on the Q&A, it incorporates the information that we have in My Health Pocket of yours, which is what medications you are taking, what is your past history, what is your family history, what has been your social life, social habits, have you been drinking too much, such all things we have that in My Health Pocket. So system incorporates those two elements and gives you the suggestion, which is not generalized but more hyper personalized, that based on your overall health, that these are the three suggestions.
Incredible.
Because sometimes what happens in the when you don't have the right information available, either you get too scared, or you just don't care about it, which is both wrong. If you have right information, then maybe if you're, sometimes in the healthcare, especially in the United States, emergency rooms are over flooded in regular, not just COVID, outside COVID, because every small, let's say if you have a fever or if you sneeze like 3 times, you will rush to emergency room, which is supposed not to be the case. With the help of My MediPocket, it helps to do the screening of it. So you can screen your symptoms, and it gives you suggestion that, okay, should you be running to emergency room, or you should be calling your doctor, or you can wait until tomorrow and take it from there. So it actually helps not just the patient, but the system also to save from that getting overburdened.
Incredible. And this is the platform which you can probably take across the whole world.
Healthcare is actually the problem, as I say, the right care is the right of every human being in every country. So that is what the thing we want to bring is global. So that's a global problem needs a global solution.
So one more question to you now. You almost seem to be, well, as you said, a PhD in engineering rather than a medical doctor. But technology in medicine has been quite a laggard. I mean, I know in many countries we are still talking of telemedicine, which is something I remember, Hughes was implementing in the mid 90s, right? But we're still talking telemedicine, and people are saying what a great thing it is. What is your thought on how technology is going to change healthcare in the world?
Very much. It will really make it efficient. And I tell you one thing, the last adoption of technology in healthcare is because of us, healthcare providers.
Correct.
Because doctors are not designed technically. I mean, they are not made for technology. So if you give us a simple or a little complex computer, we will be scared to use it. So we have this technology fear, as I call it, in medicine, because in any medical studies of 6 years, or we do 8 years, they never teach even one lesson how you can use a proper a computer or any technical device. So when such technical inventions happen in healthcare, and they're shown to the doctors that have educated or that passed the school, let's say a decade ago, for them it's hard to adopt it. So even a simpler form, if like EHR, electronic health record system, it got really hard to be pushed on doctors, because they rather would like to write stuff than going on this device and putting their notes. So again, it took a little push, and adoption took a time. So technology, I think it gets adopted very late because of us. But if we can educate doctors, I'm not saying give them a PhD degree in technology, but at least have them a little basic, that they don't get fear of when something is thrown to them. It's like, oh no, we just don't want to learn that. So, and I think one thing that I always say when I talk to the young people who are interested to come into medicine, or when I talk at hospitals or medical institute, I always suggest that maybe we need to incorporate one course of technology in our studies. I mean, in 8 years of studies, we can have at least 1 month or one course which is give them that knowledge or get them out of the fear of technology. But this is going to definitely, the telecommunication, we can see the need of telehealth in COVID, where you cannot go, and you're not even allowed sometimes to go to the to the hospitals or emergency room just for your minor symptoms, and you're lost. But telehealth is helping people to still stay calm and reach to their doctors, on the time they want, and they can get the right care. So telehealth has definitely shown, I think, across the industry, especially the healthcare industry, that technology definitely needs to be adopted well in healthcare.
Fantastic. So Priyanka, let's now move to the next segment of our conversation, which is, all the incredible volunteer work that you do. Tell me about your involvement and the kind of work you do. Let's start with the rural education development in India.
Yes. So I'm not actively doing that currently, but I used to be very active before. And how I started in that is during my medical studies, my medical school, we always have a summer break where you need to do internship in hospitals. I used to do my internship at hospital, but at the same time, I got very much, I think, involved in this rural education because of my parents. My parents have NGOs they run in India, and I got fascinated because since growing up, I saw how they do and their work involvement. So I found these the rural education. My area that I used to take part in rural education is with the children and women. So those were my I would say my areas where I used to do. I used to start with basic education, but I also used to take it for females. Females have a different education about hygiene and few different, which is as a woman you need to know. Sometimes you are shy to talk, or if you just don't want to know about it or talk about it. So I used to incorporate even that part in that rural education, not just the academic education part.
Right. Very interesting. And the other network that you're working with is Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. Again, a fascinating kind of a change from a doctor to an entrepreneur, and then even teaching about it. Tell me about the work you do here.
So that is, again, I think it's interesting because I always get to these things not with a choice, but once I start doing it, I just love it, and I was like, bring more. So I got invited, I think, a few years back at one of the institute, and they're like, can you do one lecture? And I was reluctant because I didn't know if that is something which students will get benefited or I would be enjoying, but I did it as a favor because it came as a request for somebody I know. When I did it, I see that young, when I'm talking about young, is like high schoolers, the college students and universities, they're really very interested not only to learn about healthcare, but entrepreneurship. Because sometimes it looks like you can only be an entrepreneur, because if you drop out, you will be hitting another Facebook or this. This is not the regular concept. There's so many aspects about entrepreneurship, which if you don't understand it, it may scare you, or if somebody can tell you, it may prepare you from very beginning, okay, this could be my road plan. So when I got involved, I really liked it, and I like how young people are very interested, the questions they have, the things they want to know about. It really shows their interest that they want to know before they get into it. So that's how I got involved, and now I do it as I used to do it more regularly before COVID. Every month I did do at least 4 of my volunteer lessons or classes, you can say, and it really helped me to see. And very interestingly, I have a very young college student, which I started like 2.5 years back, and right now I think he's only 17 years old, and he has his own venture.
Wow.
Which really makes me happy, see young people doing something out of norm and not just playing video games and not doing anything.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well said. So, my next question is, you're building your own businesses, you're teaching entrepreneurship. What are some of the core values you believe in?
Hard work. Persistence. You need to be persistent. You need to do it. You don't get results you don't get results like in 1 month or 1 year. You need to be persistent and truthful to yourself, because if you are short of anything, if you're weak in anything, you need to accept it. But at the same time, I always say, also, if you're good in something, brag about it, because you need to balance it. You can always tell what I'm not good, but also say what I'm good at. So you need to have a balance of being truthful to yourself.
Fantastic. So, Priyanka, I'm going to now move to the last section of our conversation, which is some questions for you personally. For an individual who's, so young, achieved a lot, my question to you is, what does success mean to Priyanka?
Recognition.
Okay.
So for me, success always meant that getting recognized what I'm doing. And thankfully that has been, I say that God bless that way, that I'm getting recognized to my work. I always say it doesn't mean that you don't attach dollar amount to it, but that comes with that. It's very important that you get recognized what you're doing, because then it brings more value than just bringing more value to just showing that what's your valuation in your company is.
Correct. Well said. And whenever I speak to so many people, I guess the meaning of success changes over a period of time. So when you've sold your company as a unicorn, I guess then you will say my recognition or the dollar value is not relevant and success will be something different for you by then. So, but well
I
said.
think you're right. It just changes with, what phase of life you are in. So
Correct. Well said. So my next question, which is the follow-up of success, is where do you draw your inspiration from to keep doing such amazing things?
from everywhere.
Mhm.
So and actually that depends on what phase I'm going through. For example, if I'm going through a down phase, if something is not working out as I planned to work it out, as I wanted to work out, then I take inspiration to people who are more on a harder time than me. And I was like, if these people in such a hard circumstances can do what they are doing, maybe not achieving the success what some people consider as a success, but they're still doing well. Or they're still being happy in what they're having or satisfied. So at that time, I draw inspiration for them. And sometimes when I did something, I achieved something what I wanted to achieve, then I get inspiration from that people. It's like, okay, if they achieve this, what is their next thing is how they go to the next level. So I think my inspiration comes from everywhere, depending what phase I'm going through. But I take inspiration from various aspects, but main inspiration, I think, not only being a daughter or female, but mother. Your mom has always been an inspiration, I think, for every child, daughter, son. So my mom has always been my inspiration to push me, take it. She always actually encourages me to take risk. It's okay. Don't be normal. Don't be abnormal also.
I know what you mean. Yes.
Take risk. Do something different. And if you fail, it's okay. You still learn something by failing it. To do it.
Correct. Which is a very interesting comment from your mom, because my next question talks of failure. And I have a new book coming out on failure. And I've often said that, Indian parents, or for that matter, South Asian parents, don't teach their children it's okay to fail, which is what then manifests itself in our behavior patterns, because everyone's been taught I have to be first or I have to be number one in the line, etc., etc. Yet we fail. My question to you, Priyanka, is what have been some of your learnings from some of your mistakes or failures?
I think initially when I failed, I think in my initial years, I felt bad. I was like, oh, it only happened to me, or am I not good enough to achieve something and I failed it?
Correct.
But as you said, when you grow to certain phases of your life, you see things differently. Now, from my failures, what I had, I did the lesson from them. It's like, I failed. And one thing I always do, success and failure, I own it. If I get successful, I own it. If I fail, I own it too. So my failures are not because of the surrounding people, and my success is not also with the surrounding people. So there have been failures in life, but I learned from it. Even before starting my company, I had something which I wanted to do a little differently, which was not medicine. And I think it was meant to be for me to do only healthcare. And it didn't work out. And I tried this and it worked out. But I learned the experience. So I think you do learn. As I was reading, and I think I'm going to read your book that is coming out, because again, to mention about your other book, which is The Brand Calls You, is one of my very favorite title book. So it's like, we say that people get success because of experience, but experience comes from failures. So it's always a part that people do fail in order to get that experience to go to the success level. So I learned that with time, that failures are okay. You need to accept it, but that's not the end of the road.
Okay, terrific. So my last now question to you, and this is for the thousands and thousands of people who will listen to you and all the words that you have just spoken about. What would your advice be to a young individual starting off on their medical journey?
Medicine is very interesting. And if they are doing medical journey for the patient care, then obviously being in the medicine as a doctor or a nurse is something. But also keep in mind that healthcare is not just about being in medicine or a healthcare provider. It's a very broad field. So even if the people don't have the interest of reading big books of medicine, they can still be in healthcare by their technical interest. They can still be involved. One thing in medicine, if you want to be a doctor or something as a healthcare provider, you need to have a patience. And you need to have a passion, because it's something which is really, really long and tiring process of 8-9 years. But just don't give up. after that, as you say, there's a silver lining after that. When you go and treat people, you get that satisfaction. When you make somebody, someone or somebody, a family better, you see the satisfaction and thank in people's eyes, which I think it's worth it for this 9 or 10 years of cruise, we go through.
Well said. Priyanka, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure speaking to you. I wish you, MediPocket, and everything else that you're doing lots of success.
Thank you so much. It was being very pleasure to be on here. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.